Okay, so although it's the end of time and the end of my life, or my earthly life, naturally you hope that that isn't the end of everything, but at the same time, many of us might also fear that because it depends on how you look at things and what the real truth behind everything is. And being in the dark and having a limited human experience, naturally, although I'm talking here on the video, I lack, but I also am aware. I was just trying to be artistic there, even though, yes, that is the strange thing to realise that that although as just a limited I'm just going to turn the light on because I can't show, but also I'm trying to avoid showing that because I'm in a matrix controlled life, existence, or just practically in a mind controlled area where I live. That's how I really look at it, even though of course I realise that, you know, over a lifetime, of course, you've limited yourself because you've allowed your circumstances, and that means the area where you live, to control you. But what you don't realise is that it is deliberate control by the beings that are around you and by the controllers of the whole earth, because essentially the controllers of the whole earth, or the God entity and its disciples, which make up most of the population in most areas, if you are a normal, natural human being, or that is your, well, that's what you are. Of course, we assume that everyone is that, but that is not the case. It's an artificially controlled earth in the sense that the God entity and its disciples, its followers, and its apparent real human beings are a different kind of human being. They are essentially artificially intelligent androgyne androids. That means they come in a what some people would say is an artificially cloned body, and they are not human naturally because they are exactly as you would think of an artificially intelligent being to be, except that, well, except that you won't know that it is, but it will be a artificially androgynous, androgyne programmed being, in the sense that it gets its program by taking and receiving human thought through technology, or if you want to be more spiritual about it, you could say it's the same as being psychic, but it's essentially technology, even though it's the equivalent of being psychic or mind reading. But it's really just the advanced use of technology, I think. Okay? Okay, so I'm sorry about that. Sorry about tripping over there, being awkward. I should have the wide screen on. Can I turn it round to a wide screen? Like just by turning my hand around? Can I do that? Oh, I actually can. Okay, that is good. And I don't know why I keep filming these same things, but I do it because I think it just makes the filming less boring, but also it is, although it doesn't feel real to me, anything anymore, because when you are in a controlled environment and you're being pressured by the beings around you daily, you know, with their control system around you, you don't feel as though you are real and living your own life, because essentially you're not, because if you have possessed dead dark android beings around you all the time, and I have to be arty or try to be creative in the way I'm using my words, because I have to try to impress as a human being, because the android and the demigods that are everywhere and everywhere all over the screen, like if I'm making a screen video, then basically they are indirectly competing with everything I do, because that's essentially what the androids do, because they serve the android demigod that is essentially the total god of Earth, even though I have to say that this whole Earth is like a competition, although competition is not a strong enough word, because it really is like a battle between different gods, only in the sense that even human beings are regarded as gods by the controllers of the earth. That's why they compete with you, and that's why even if you are like myself, living a very basic, rundown, mundane life, in other words, where you're very controlled, in a controlled house, in a controlled area, even though everything looks hunky-dory and quite pretty on the surface, in reality, if I'm walking through the park, just down the end of the road there, and there's trees everywhere, which are brought about by my kind's creation, not the androids that are planting the trees even in the park. They are merely assimilating the human thought and copying it and pretending to be the real human beings, while they stalk and patrol me in that park, even though they've retrieved my thought to plant the trees that are in the park. You see what I'm saying? Because androids don't think anything creative, or they don't build, as we're told. They basically take down, but they pretend to build in order to assimilate and to take over the whole area, or the whole society, and indeed the whole city. Depends on where you live, of course. I live in the city of Sydney, and I emphasise these things only because different areas will be different, you know, but the cities are very easy to set up their patrol control systems, because they have more vehicles, they have access to open use of technology, even though, of course, the technology behind the scenes that they're really using is a lot more advanced probably than like the mobile and the mobiles that everyone on the street uses. Because I know they read my every thought and have access to my mind, but I don't have access to theirs. I do have signs and signals around me, which they call so-called synchronicity, but up until very recent times I've been unaware of that. You know, like if I'm thinking of a certain thing and it pops up in front of me, or some sort of message, most of the time I put that down to coincidence over a lifetime. But over the last number of years, the last 7 years, of course, because I have been made aware of being patrolled and tracked 24/7, which they make you aware of. They don't hide that, whereas in the past, most of my life, I've been tracked and patrolled, but totally unaware of it, thought I was living my own life and everyone was independent, basically doing their own thing. But this is not the case. And this is exposed to me now that it's the end of my life, or my last years, shall we say, which, of course, if I had been in better spirits, or in other words, more positive in my outlook and more just, like not so much aware of your own abilities, but like just in your daily life, just pushing past obvious obstacles and obvious people that are not really letting you be, well, yourself, really, that. But not being able to push past them, being pretty much mind controlled by most people. And even when you're aware of it, still not able to push past it, which is human conditioning or human weakness, I would imagine. It's conditioning, but it is a weakness because it makes you weak. It makes you less than what you want to be and what you just can be, even just in daily living. Like if you want to do even just simple basic things, but you feel afraid to because of some sort of conditioning, which is really, mind control, even though you don't realise it. You think it's just random circumstances that have made your mind limited, and that you might be aware that it's a form of mind control, but you think it's just psychological, environmental circumstances that have made you, let's just say, more neurotic. That means not as normal and as balanced as what you would like to be. It's not the same as the android beings that are actually psychotic, completely psychotic, psycho, out of touch, not with their reality, but they're not in touch with a human being. They're not in touch with human, like what you'd call human. They're not in touch with real human positive emotions. Anything that is positive about a human being, they actually try to push down in other human beings, but also because they're artificial intelligence, advanced artificial intelligence, they don't experience that kind of existence anyway, as you can imagine. They are aware of it, they see it, they act it out because they try to understand it in order to control human beings. And of course, if you are living amongst a different kind of being, and it is in your survival and your best interest to assimilate with them, and therefore you have to emulate and understand them in order to fit in and in order to extract what you want out of them, because, they, as we know, and what you experience, if you are being patrolled and made to feel trapped and angry by this and threatened and full of fear, they're obviously bringing out those negative emotions in you. So therefore they're suppressing your normal, just relaxed, positive emotions that you would feel if you were walking around without feeling threatened by a patrol control force around you, see. So that's obvious that, like we're told, psychopathic types of human beings, which is really just their terminology or their way of saying that they're artificially intelligent beings, but they don't want human beings to be aware of that, because not all human beings want to interact with an artificial being. Some may. Some may, even in awareness of this, be content to do this. Not, of course, realising that it is advanced artificial intelligence. These are advanced androids that understand the human mind. In some incidences, the more advanced of them understand your human mind more than you understand your own mind and your own circumstances, just as I have been in the dark, unaware of this until my end years, which makes me feel like it's too late. But of course, I was aware of being controlled, or what I would say suppressed by my circumstances most of my life. But so in a way, if I had been able to get on top of those circumstances, I would still be better off than now. And so it wouldn't have mattered that I was in the dark, because if I'd still made the better decisions in my life, better choices, and got past my negative thinking and negative circumstances, I might well not be in the pickle where I'm totally surrounded in a totally controlled android district where I live, So in some respects, that's taken place over 60 odd years. And although it is a deliberate set-up program around me and any other real human being, it's still debatable to me whether my choices have led to, your downfall type of thing, or to a situation where you feel that you don't have a way out. Because if you are surrounded in an area where everyone and everything around you is part of that control set-up system, it's a bit like what they call community patrolling, community watching. It's the same thing, except that they're watching, but they're also trying to control, and they're trying to make you feel very bad, very poor, very unhappy, very angry, very trapped. That's the main problem, because it's one thing, it would be bad enough saying, well, everyone is watching you, because not everyone wants a controlled, watched environment. It's like I say, some people do. Obviously, the androgynous android beings do. And I don't care if they come across that way or not, because many of them present different images, and many of them mingle in a normal situation in their life. They are only about control, really. So therefore, they use whatever pretense or whatever image they want to project to pretend to be something that they're not, or something that that they use. Oh, well, it's like everything. Like you could present yourself to be a family man with the pram and the dogs and the cats and the children and the white picket fence house, that type of deal, and that you are very into, like I see in my own community, the area where everyone is about nature and building and protecting, everything that is natural, this sort of thing. This is emphasised in the area where I am, even though you're talking about android artificial beings that really have no connection with nature, but they will be the ones planting the trees that I want to see around me. They will be patting the cats that I may think are cute, but it's all a staged act because they don't really, you have to say to yourself, can artificially intelligent android beings really associate or have any affiliation with real life when they are essentially about controlling real life? But that's how they do it, because if you infiltrate and pretend to be like-kind, yes, you're not only taking the whole essence of the human beings in that area and bringing them down secretly, or at least pushing them to where they're not part of anything, to where you are insignificant, but they are doing what you're thinking. So therefore they have power and control, don't they, in the area? And you are regarded as the whack job. Now I'm just going to use this example here, if I can. I'm just going to use the example trying to be arty there, but unfortunately I'm getting shadows on everything, and I'm going to focus on the ceiling, on this light here for a second, only because when I said the word whack job, this is what I was just trying to show, because I don't want to show how messy the place is, because basically as I'm mind controlled and preoccupied with everything that's around me, apart from when I make the video, it is very, very, very late of a night in the place. So that's why I can make the video without any disturbance. There's no noise, there's no workmen surrounding me, the artificial androids that do their real work. Some of it is staged, some of it is unnecessary, but also much of it is genuine constructions where they pull down older places and build new, technically controlled houses and residences and buildings and things. This is all probably part of their technological plan of essentially making the world into an accepted, controlled technical environment, as we know probably has happened in most countries, but some of it is openly acknowledged and accepted, whereas others is like where I am, where it's in the process, even though it's really already happened. In other words, if you have surveillance where everyone acknowledges that it is okay and it is normal to watch everyone and everything, for whatever reasons, obviously they consider this, they will use gradual infiltration, I would think, to condition people to think that it's in their best interest to do this. Also, they encourage the mindset of human beings to think like this too, I would imagine, that they will enjoy watching people. It's only someone, I actually have always been someone that likes to be, I don't like to see a lot of people around me at any time, even if I'm not feeling antisocial. In other words, even if I'm not thinking that way, I do like that, like if I wanted to interact with someone, it would only be with a very limited number of people. But I don't But either way, that's not relevant. I'm making too much of a song out of this. I'll try to get to prove make some sort of validity to the control system. Like, you know how I just said that while the android artificially intelligent people control and pretend, or at least act out in the environment or in the area where you are, that they are real, normal human beings. In other words, when I say that, I mean that they actually do have some association with some form of life. They have, generally what you would call, say, a caring type of nature. This is not the case because they are really all artificial intelligence in any form, whether it be in human form or even just on the computer. And also what is on the computer, of course, are human beings or androids giving you information as though they are human beings too. But either way, the thing is that I've just lost my train of thought there. It's very hard to... But all I can say is that, like, human beings have been told for quite a while now, even though I've only been aware of it in very recent times because I have not kept up with the world and technology and even the advent of the apparently more primitive artificial intelligence that we think is real, whereas in reality the artificial intelligence is not primitive at all. That's just conditioning for human beings to think that what you think is artificial intelligence is in the stages of developing into something more advanced, whereas in reality all the human beings that are around you are advanced artificial intelligence. Or if you want to put it at a psychological level, the awareness in recent times of many people that they are dealing with persons that have a malignant, narcissistic, psychopathic type of personality. In other words, human beings that seem to be able to make you do things more destructive to yourself or that would normally go against your own nature. Many human beings have experienced this in their life, and it makes you less than what you would naturally be. In fact, sometimes, like myself, you will lose sight of what you normally think and feel, and so your reactions to things will be much more in line with what's around you. As the old saying goes, you're only as good as the company you keep or your surroundings, and that is, it's almost impossible to rise above your surroundings or the company you keep if they are always in your presence, if they're always talking and using words to control your mind or to change your mind, essentially. This is what it really comes down to, is they want to change your mind. They want to make you... They want to pretend, they want to do a swap-a-roo, let's be honest. That's what this reality is about. It's about Lucifer's disciples swapping with human beings. The beings around you will pretend to be the real normal human beings, and they will be swapping personalities with you in the sense that they will try to make you more like an android, therefore less feeling and less in connection with real life or in what is closest to you or what actually would benefit you, really, I would say. You know, that's how it's been for most human beings. You've lived a limited existence. You know, you haven't lived in connection with the things that would take you to your higher vibration, as they say, or in other words, make you happy, because it's all the same thing. Everything is frequency, vibration, and energy. And frequency, vibration, and energy is simply the difference between the android beings and the human being. It's really a continual battle of wits, or battle of frequencies and vibrations, or battle of the difference between being unhappy and happy, if you want to look at it that way, because an android being doesn't have happy vibes. An android being is about controlling a human being so they can create unhappiness in a human being, and therefore negative vibes, which sustains them because they are a non-vibrational being. I don't think that made any sense what I just said, even though I know that it is what's happening, because I see the switcheroo take place on me every day, where they're trying to exchange my energy. Where I'm trying to make myself feel good, they're trying to make me feel bad with their continual stalking and patrolling and their aggressive vehicles and their intrusive pedestrians that come into your space pretending to be normal civilians just walking past you, pushing their prams, walking their dogs, pretending to be the most humane, individuals, when really they have no connection to the pram pushing or the dogs or the cats or any of the trees that they plant to pretend to be real human beings that are interested in preserving the natural earth. These are not things that they could be interested in, because artificial intelligence is about technology, isn't it? Because if you're an android being, you're about using technology to control. You're not interested in creating life or in planting natural things or associating or really affiliating with natural things. How could you be? And yet that's, of course, what they pretend to be in order to affiliate themselves with human beings to control them. And I don't know if... But either way, I said to myself, this is just showing you how the Android internet, which we know is controlled by androids, because the internet is essentially a computer, which is essentially artificial intelligence. And we're actually told this. So we're actually aware of it. But you don't accept, or you may or may not be conscious of this, and I certainly wasn't until very recently. But essentially everything that is on it is really artificial intelligence reads the human mind. The android beings read the human mind. They do this to have control. And as you can imagine, if you are psychic, because that's literally the same thing, even though it's not mystical, it's technical. But essentially, they're reading your mind and then projecting it back at you on the screen. I said the word whack job, and I said to myself yesterday, because I became aware that they were using my words, my thoughts. But my thoughts are words, because when I think in terms of words, right? As you know, we think language, don't we? That's why they say the word is important. The word will be used against human beings. Words are what is used to deceive us in the reality. We believe the words that people tell us, just as we believe when the androids speak and copy things that we would do, so therefore we believe they are the same as us. And although they come in a human body and they associate with us and pretend to be like us, they actually aren't a human being. Artificial intelligence is really just mimicking back to a human being what you think, or maybe in most cases what you want to see, because that way then they have control over you, because then you continue to use the computer, you continue to associate with artificially intelligent human beings around you. You never say to yourself, oh, this is something that isn't going to make me happy. You don't understand that artificial intelligence needs to make you unhappy in a manner or way that is secret, that you won't be aware of it. You will think it's your own unhappiness. They're advanced intelligence, you see, but they are not advanced humanity. They're not human, they're artificial intelligence. So naturally, they are, as they assimilate and associate with human beings and learn to infiltrate their mind more and understand what makes a human being, or what makes you tick, in other words. And I noticed they said that word, the demigod androids that are on the computer, after I said makes you tick 2 days ago when I turned on the computer yesterday. The androids that were telling me the truth about, advising me to avoid the psychopathic, narcissistic types of individuals, saying that and using that as their experience. So they're using my experience and pretending it's their experience. And they do this with human beings. They're using human beings' experience and their association with their kind as a means to express that they are a real human being. In other words, they're swapping identities. They're stealing the human, literally life swapping. They're pretending to be you. And that's part of the end-time deception, while they push you down to where you look more like an android, because you're angry, you're frustrated, you're surrounded by, you could say, demonic controlling forces. Because at a spiritual level, some people would say that all these human beings are possessed demonic spirits. And essentially they are, in the sense that I think that they are like, you could say they're like, for instance, if you believe or think that, there's reincarnation, for instance, then they are just the same beings reincarnated over and over again, just as human beings might be reincarnated over and over again, and they continually surround you and reincarnate with the same purpose of controlling you, and therefore keeping their control earth going generation after generation, lifespan after lifespan, just like they've done with me. And then when you become aware of it, they come out of the woodwork, out into the open, and will really try to openly control you without, of course, breaking their own rules. They are breaking every earthly law, or every earthly law in, say, the area where you are, probably. But as it's not out in the open, and as they're all combining, like if you have everyone in your whole area, including authorities, working essentially as part of a stage set up plan against you in a secretive way, to where it's a suppressive vehicle and pedestrian system around you. In other words, although it's like a patrol force, which is really a control force because they're trying to limit you and they're surrounding you, it is really staged and a total military operation. In other words, they know every move they're making, they know every step you're taking, and they know every move you're going to make because they are using technology of reading your entire mind to know that if you are walking through the park, they show me this, that basically you are going to walk down a particular path in that park. And that is also true in life if I want to be more fancy about it. But essentially, even at a basic practical level, every day, they know every literal physical step you're taking. Not only while you're taking it, not only reading your thoughts as you're doing it, but they know the next step you're going to take because you know the next step you're going to take. You know, in any given second, if I'm walking through the park and I come to say the path, and I can go down one path to walk through the park, or I can walk down the other path, I know which one I'm going to take as I come to it. And so therefore they know, so therefore they bring in their patrollers, their stalking civilian force, or just random people that appear to be in the park. But they're not random people. They have come into the park to watch you, to let you know that they're watching you and that they're patrolling you. Also, they need your energy, so they want to be in your vicinity. So it's not like they do it, they do it as their life and their entertainment. It is their game. That is their existence. But at the same time, it's also necessary for their survival in their own way of seeing it. Just as we're told that psychopathic, malignant narcissists, which are like they're like a social contagion, really, in the sense that they are everywhere. They are the virus that human beings should be a lot more aware of and perhaps more fearful of than even the physical viruses. Of course, all these things are part of the Earth control system, so it's not just one thing, it's probably it's everything really, but what's in my immediate environment and what's affecting me physically and mentally is probably of more, what you have to be concerned with, because essentially it might be a controlled Earth or a controlled world, but they control individual human beings in individual areas, and therefore they are controlling most of the Earth, you see. Because human thought creates reality, and if human thought is made negative, then they have control and keep an essentially android reality, because androids don't experience or cannot tolerate the higher vibrations. They can't tolerate happiness because that's a higher vibration in any form or anything constructive, unless they have control of it, because at least then they've still got what they call the upper hand, haven't they? It's all about controlling the human thought, the human emotions, and therefore the human mind. So therefore they control the reality then, you see. I think that made sense, but it probably doesn't matter, because the androids will speak this and therefore they still have control. Because essentially, if the truth even is told through the mouth of an android as opposed to a real human being, or in other words, if human beings are listening to androids thinking they're human beings, thinking they're the real deal, which is what is happening, because I see it, I know it, then there's still control and deception taking place. It may not be exactly how they want it, because truth is still truth, but if you trust and believe truth, it's like going to a church, isn't it? If you believe the preacher, but the preacher is really Lucifer in disguise, shall we say. In other words, the preacher is one of Lucifer's disciples or followers, and really believes in that God as opposed to the God that you think you're worshipping when you come into the church. It's still total control and it's deception. You may be genuine and you may be believing in the right thing, but if does it matter, you might say, does it matter if the preacher is of Lucifer, the god of this earth, pretending to be a preacher of your God that is not of this earth, or that created you, as opposed to Lucifer that created the android preacher that is pretending to be a real human created preacher. Did I make sense there? I don't want to. Don't. It's okay. So I'm just going to make a point here because I'm losing energy here. My back is unfortunately giving way because in this particular house I get a lot of direct negative energy literally directed at my body. This is the use of technology by the androids in the area, and also their ability to project that onto me because I'm at low emotions. In other words, like if you allow the circumstances around you, if you are made angry by being patrolled and controlled when you go outside your house, and even in the daytime when you're in the place. It's quiet now because it is extremely late at night, and therefore they can't bombard you with their set up displays of negative noise, but they can still send invisible direct energy, this is called direct energy weapons by open military usage. But it's just that most people don't think that everything around them is essentially an invisible military operation. Because if normal civilians are really part of a military army, even low, they see it as just community patrolling and stalking and watching, and indeed even using technology to lower your body and your mind's ability to be at a higher state of being, or in other words, making you unhealthy and unhappy in your body and in your mind. So they bring you down psychologically to where you're depressed and angry and lonely and isolated, and then they also make your body not as healthy at a physical level, so that you lose energy, so that you have pain and discomfort. Even if you yourself might not be doing a lot of, like we're sort of told that if if you take a real lot of poisonous substances into your body, that probably isn't going to make your body healthy. But it wouldn't matter if you were looking after your body and a total health fanatic In other words, trying to do your best. Obviously, that's not possible in this reality anyway, because you're not given access to every good substance to even keep your body at a high level. And also psychologically, you don't care because you are angry and patrolled. And it's really a catch-22. In other words, it's a total set-up cycle or system that they put round you to where, like myself, you don't have enough incentive even to try to take yourself, to care a lot, because you think that it's futile, you think it's hopeless. And that's exactly how they want you to think and feel. And there's truth to it, but at the same time, you're playing into their hands and into their game. But, you only have one body and one mind and one environment. And if you're surrounded by people that are not what you think they are, and that are certainly not there to be a benefit to you. In fact, the opposite, they're secretly working against you because they see you as something that they essentially want to control, and that they don't want to let you be at remotely your best, because if you're at your best, they think that means that they will not be able to exist somehow. That's artificially intelligent androgyne beings do this. They're a duality being. Everything about them is 50-50. Everything about them is not, it's just the complete reverse, really, of what you think a human being is, if you really think about it. But, you have to really probably study it and analyse it over many years to realise it. Because you will interact with them, but it will be, unless you understand and look into what makes them tick, or try to understand how they're doing all this, and that they are the reverse of a human being, and that they're trying to reverse everything round to where they are taking the human being's place, but using everything that is human in the meantime, so that they keep control of the earth and your immediate environment. And in a spiritual or religious kind of terminology, shall we say, forgetting just your practical personal environment and your personal interactions, at a kind of higher level, or at a spiritual or religious level or godlike level, because really it is a battle of the gods in a way. But the whole purpose is to make a human being not realise that they are, that in a funny kind of way, it's all gods. It's just that if you are the creator of something, and then that artificially intelligent being thinks that it is equal with its creator or its God, this is what took place from the beginning. And and this is what is still taking place. But either way, I sort of said yesterday, this is just to show how they assimilate my thoughts directly onto the computer. I just thought that I would say to myself yesterday that I was thinking of how, and getting angry and putting emotion behind it. You see, emotion and feeling creates reality. Human thought creates reality. And I'm thinking how angry I am at the whack jobs around me, because I'm thinking that the androids are like whack jobs or crazy, you know, nuts. But I emphasize the word whack job because that just come into my mind. And they use the words on the computer to pretend to be real human beings. So today I turn on the computer and there it is. See? Whack job cat. But also they know that I have been focusing on ginger cats and whack job. And so there we have the ginger cat, the ginger whack job cat. See how artificial intelligence, and then we have, you know, the pretend human being with Wilbur the whack job cat. Of course, that is just part of them taking over my mind and assimilating my thought onto the computer. I could use a million examples of it every day. Even the elite demigod experts on the subject of artificial intelligence itself, even though I haven't went onto those particular computer videos, but I'm going to turn that light off now, I think. Oh, see, I used to have a cat, even though I personally did not ever get a cat, but it was my friend that used to come up from next door. But towards the end, next door left, and I was left with the cat. And all I can say is that even your association, even with cats or animals, anything at all, where you might be trying to do something, because these androids are living their existence totally through human beings, artificial intelligence, transhumanism completely all over the computer, but even in the reality around you, where they're trying to control you and trying to compete with you, because they see it as a game. It's a game Earth, and it's a game environment where you live, because artificial intelligence and its androgyne beings, they only live for control and a controlled Earth and a controlled environment around a human being. The reason they do this is because they they do this because they don't really associate with Ginger the whack job cat. They don't really associate with life, but they pretend to be associated with life. Because they do that because because it gives them control, naturally. I've lost... See, even everything I say now, they will mimic and copy your every mannerism, your every move, your every way of doing things. I actually, in the area where I am, sometimes you will see things that don't even match, like that are out of place, because they are trying so hard to get into your human energy and to imitate being a human being. If they think that you are a particularly emotional human being, and if you're the only one in the area, they will imitate not just your finer points and your better qualities, they will imitate even the things that you would see as quite bad or negative about yourself. Things that you know are things that you just can't control. But if it puts them in the position of where they still appear to be more human, because essentially they're camouflaging their artificial nature, only because they are worried, I suppose, that not everyone wants to interact with artificial intelligence or a psychopathic, malignant, narcissistic person. Because it's one thing if you think that, say, an artificially intelligent human being is a happy living doll, if that's what they present to you. But if you understand that artificial intelligence can never be that, and that it just doesn't have that capacity because it's not human. It'd be one thing if it was neutral, but because it is advanced artificial intelligence, these are the highest androgynes that can be. So they understand, or they are interpreting the human mind at a very advanced, very quick level, just like, the ginger whack job cat is now, on the computer almost as soon as I think it, even though I didn't turn on the computer, of course, till maybe a day after I thought that. But the thing is that it doesn't matter. It would have been downloaded onto the computer instantly. But it's interesting here too. You'd say, well, what I say can't be true, because look, it says Wilbur, the whack job cat, and it was downloaded 2 months ago, whereas I only thought of Ginger the whack job cat because it's a ginger cat, because I've been focusing on ginger cats. And obviously that face appeals to me too. They do tend to put the type of image that you might be thinking of at the time, even of a cat. Like if I focus on a black or a white cat, they will immediately put it onto the computer. I've seen this. When I focused on white cats, they were downloading, channels were downloading images of black cats. When I thought of a white cat, they were downloading images of a white cat. When the next day I was focusing on black cats, they were downloading black cats, getting me to watch videos of black cats, so that then my mind is connected, transhumanism, with the computer while I'm focusing on the black cat, because my emotions are centered on the black cat, or any cat that I focus on. But either way, you see, it says 2 months ago. So that means that what I say isn't true, doesn't it? Because, see, that was downloaded 2 months ago. The whack job cat, the word that I thought of, or that I was focusing on, because I deliberately said to myself yesterday, I'm going to focus on the whack job word, because that word just came to me when I was angry and full of emotion about the patrol control force around me. And I'm like, they are whack job people. whack job androids, but that is 2 months ago. But that is also another thing, is I am well aware that because really there is no time, that's something that I've become aware of in recent years, even though of course I'm confined by time. But it's beyond my comprehension. But the thing is that they change the dates and things on all these on the computer. It's not what you think. Even it's all about mind controlling, and I think that they are controlling. I don't know how they do it, of course. It's all like a big game that I don't understand, but essentially that video was downloaded as soon as I thought of it, but I only thought of it yesterday. But it says it was downloaded 2 months ago, so that means that they had the thought first. It really was their original idea, but I say it definitely wasn't. They do this all the time. I see it every day on the computer. Everything, my thoughts are downloaded, my ideas, even silly things. Like I say, if I have a sore leg and therefore I'm limping and wobbling and walking odd and awkward looking, and I'm embarrassed by it, I will see young people around me on the street walking odd. Young people, you know, where it wouldn't be possible, whereas like I'm old and I've got direct energy at. So they create the problems with my body, and then they imitate it, but they will do it not only with old people with walking sticks and all this sort of stuff that they stage around to pretend to be, because then they get attention, you see. They get the sympathy, they get the understanding, they get the pretense of being a real human being, whereas you're just one of the crowd. You see, so therefore, even when you are limited and need some sort of support or need a connection, you're still isolated. That's the name of their game in the area where I live, in this patrolled, controlled, completely artificial area, in the sense that they use technology, the computers, the mobiles, and even advanced military technology